All right, people, welcome. This is very exciting. We're starting something new. We're evolving, and welcome to the first ever episode of something that we're calling Between Two Wheels with me, Rebecca Rusch. And I thought about this, and you got a wheel here with me, Yuri, and I'm the other wheel. And I thought about kind of what connects us as bikes and how we come together riding. And the Between Two Wheels is like, okay, we got Yuri, we've got Rebecca, we've got our friends. And then what's the real magic? What's between those two wheels? Well, that's the gears and the crank arm and the power meter and all the cool stuff that really makes the magic happen. Because one wheel without the other, without all the gears, isn't that much fun. So that's the gist behind Between Two Wheels, conversations with me and some of my best buddies in the cycling industry, people that I've connected with by riding bikes. So it's perfect that our very first guest is one of my best friends in the whole wide world, somebody who I really admire, fellow gravel cycling Hall of Famer, new inductee this year. He is the Goo Energy Athlete Community Manager. And we met over soup. We met over bonks. So we are going to talk today about classic bonks. And all this is a couple of friends hanging out, drinking coffee, and kind of sharing some of our experiences. And the reason we're going to talk about bonks is, like I said, that's how we met, but also the fact that people sometimes assume that somebody as accomplished as Yuri. He's won Unbound. He's done 24-hour single speed racing. We've been racing together since like the 90s, I think, or something, 24-hour and 12-hour racing. And people always assume that we've got it all figured out. And so we're going to talk about some of the crashes and burns and things like that. So welcome, Yuri. How's it going for you out there? What's going on in your world?
Oh, thanks. It's such an honor to be your first guest. And as you say, we do have a really long history together. And I'm super excited just to share some experiences and knowledge with folks. And as you alluded to in your intro, it was a bowl of soup, right, that brought you and I together at the Dirt, Sweat, and Gears. I think it was a 12-hour race, possibly, or 8-hour race in Tennessee, where I had an epic bonk due to heat stroke and finished that event, puking in the woods. And then you and your team actually saved me with a cup of soup, and I ended up getting a few bags of IV fluids. But that is actually funny enough, right, where our friendship really kicked off way back when. And we've had countless adventures and shared so many miles together over the years. But what's going on for me right now? I'm actually gearing up to go to France. I am heading over to ride L'Etape des Tour de France, which is a citizens like Grand Fondo on an actual stage of the tour. My sunglass sponsor is a French company, Julbo, and they are sponsor of this event. And I was lucky enough to be invited along with Ian Boswell, somebody who used to be in the Pro Tour, who's also a Julbo athlete and good friend, along with some other folks. And I'm leaving on Thursday and heading over. I've never ridden in France, only seen it on TV like many folks are doing right now, getting up early every morning, watching it, cheering. And super excited to do, I don't know what stage it is. It may be like the 8th or the 9th stage. We're riding out of Amassé and finishing in Morzine. It's 157 kilometers, so just under, 100-ish miles. But there's like 15,000 feet of climbing. So folks who know me, know me. I'm not a climber. I'm a power rider. So I have spent the last 3 weeks climbing my face off out here in California to try to get ready, just going out and doing big, long days where I'm doing extended climbs to be as prepared as possible for this once-in-a-lifetime adventure. And then I will stay a few extra days in Lake Annecy and just eat all the bread and cheese and ride all the miles solo and just have a little solo recharge trip around Lake Annecy and then be home.
That area of Annecy is so awesome. I did some adventure racing there years ago, and if I didn't live in Idaho, I might live there. It's so special. But I'm kind of laughing because you're getting your roadie scene on. I hope you got the super tight lycra and all the arrow stuff, and because we're like dirt people, you and I. So you're gonna roadie on out there.
Well, the ironic thing is, and this about me, is folks, associate you and I with dirt, with gravel. But where I live out in Northern California, we don't have gravel. I said this in my Hall of Fame induction speech. Like, we don't really have gravel out here. There's too much private property here in California. So I spend like 95% of my time on my road bike. So I have a lot of roadie in me. I've got all my, tightest fitting lycra ready to go. My white socks, because they make me feel faster.
It's slim.
And slim. Yeah, they have a slimming effect on my calves. And so I'm really looking forward to this experience. I've never ridden in France. And just to toe the line, you've done big events. I mean, with like 10 to 15,000 people in the Alps or at the foot of the Alps going into the Alps is going to be bonkers. It's going to be nuts.
So special. I mean, like the old classic of bike riding, and you get to be in that zone and interact with those people. I mean, it's kind of exactly like just hanging out with bike people. And so no offense to roadies or gravel or mountain bike or downhillers. That's why this Between Two Wheels. We love everyone on two wheels. That's a super cool experience. What an amazing once in a lifetime thing. And when you need to get out of California and get to that gravel, we know that we're going to see you at Rebecca's Private Idaho. You're coming out a week early with me to do some, you and Vanessa, for me to show you some of my secret home stash that isn't part of Private Idaho. And you're going to be here for the event, year number 11. You've never missed one. You are one of our trailblazers who's been to every single Private Idaho. So I'm super excited to welcome you back. So now we're going to talk bonkety bonk bonk, the dreaded bonk, the 4-letter word. Probably everyone's experienced it. Everyone hates it. Everyone tries to avoid it at all costs. It's a lot of the stuff that you and I work on. I mean, we've hosted plenty of nutrition things on Private Idaho. We've got how to. Goo's got some great stuff. So if you want to dig in deeper on how to not bonk, you can go to Goo's website, to Rebecca's Private Idaho. But today we're going to talk about the times where we really effed it up and we weren't hitting that nutritional target. So Yuri, I want to start with you. Maybe one of your favorite bonk stories. You know about the soup. That's how we met. A cup of soup brought him right back to life. And then we put on Afro wigs and did like the sort of awards with like wrestling belts and all that. That was great. One of the greatest comebacks from a bonk cup of soup. But do you have another bonk story of something that went really wrong? Maybe you hallucinated, you crashed, you were out in nowhere. Give us. I do. Well, back to Tennessee, it was the power of polyester, really, and the Afro wigs, right, Reba, that brought me back. But yes, I have an epic bonk story, and it actually, to be totally honest, it sucked. I was on the South Island of New Zealand. I was down there doing the first year of an event that no longer exists called the Pioneer Stage Race. It was a 6-day mountain bike stage race. Amazing, riding through the Southern Alps of New Zealand. One of the most stunning landscapes I've ever been lucky enough to ride through. Just like every turn and corner was out of this world, straight out of, Tolkien's Hobbits, something like that. Gandalf could have been standing right around the corner in a tussock bush. But so I was down there racing with a buddy of mine who owns a bike shop up on the North Island. We had won the opening prologue stage, not for the pros, but for the age category folks. And so we had the green jerseys on of the leaders, and we had a big day ahead of us. And we found ourselves sort of in the front group, mixing it up with Anton Cooper, who races for Trek, and Dan McConnell, and some of the Kona boys who were down there. And unfortunately, I dropped a flask. I had a flask with 5 Roctane gels in it. I went to take a feed. It fell out of my hands. In the heat of the moment, I didn't want to lose the group. I didn't want to make my partner stop. But that was the worst mistake I could have ever made. We were maybe an hour and a half into what was probably a 4-hour day, and losing those 500 calories. That was all your food for the whole thing?
No, but that was 500 calories gone right there. Because I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. And that came back to haunt me in about 45 minutes when, all systems started to shut down. I didn't have power. I had other food on me and I was bumming food off of my race partner, Andrew. But losing those Roctane gels, which, as you know, our Roctane gels have 3 times the branched chain amino acids, which help with muscle recovery, buffer lactic acid. And during a stage race, you can't get behind on your calories because you're already going to be operating in a caloric deficit. And we ended up losing 30 minutes that day to the guys who we were trying to beat in our category. And it was one of the most miserable days I've ever had on the bike.
Were you tell your teammate, like, hey man, I just really fucked up? You told him.
He knew. And that's interesting. I mean, you know the dynamics of stage racing with someone, you have to roll with the punches, the yin and the yang. You've got to like help when the other person's suffering. And, he shared food, but it got to me upstairs because I was the one slowing us down. I couldn't put any power down to the pedals. I mean, I just travel across the world too. I mean, we were 2 days into this stage race and had maybe gone a little bit too full gas out of the gate because we were with the front pros. But oh my God, that was a miserable day where he literally almost had to push me into the finish. And like I said, we lost a good 30 minutes. And then I went into full, how much can I shove into my system to try to repair the damage that caloric deficit did. And we bounced back, but I will never forget that moment because I felt so bad about holding my partner up. And it was just the simple mistake of not taking a moment there to stop in the heat of the battle there and grab that flask of 5 gels. That would have made all the difference in the world.
That was like your whoopee that you dropped. Your little and then you're crying because you dropped your whoopee and your teammates helping you, and you're probably getting electrolytes from all the tears you're crying of like, I'm holding my teammate up. But yeah, that emotional roller coaster. I bet you going through it.
It totally was. I needed my binky.
Right.
And I didn't have my binky, and it really sucked, Queenie. But we ended up bouncing back. 2 days later, we ended up winning the Queen stage in a huge upset and nearly clawed back almost all the time that I had lost us. But yeah, just staying on top of your nutrition, like even for, a 100-mile event like yours or whatever it is, you need to constantly, as we love to say, right? The phrase that you and I have TM, sip, sip, nibble, nibble, right? Always taking in little bits of food and hydration, whether it's just plain water or PB&J or banana or sports nutrition, you've got to be taking in some calories all the time.
I think, I'm not a parent, but I think the moral of this story is you got to have more than one binky with you, Yuri. Can't, because if you drop the binky, not another one, what are you going to do?
Yeah. That is so true. I needed more binkies that day. So now I always have extra binkies in my saddlebag or in my pockets in case something like that does happen, because you can't drop your flask with 500 calories in it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to tell you, we had a little bonk story involves bacon. Yeah. I mean, bacon is a kind of a superfood for ultra endurance riding. As I found out, it's very lightweight, high calorie. And in Alaska, I've done the Iditarod Trail Invitational a number of times. The short version, 350 miles in the winter on the Iditarod Trail, self-supported, winter bike packing, pretty gnarly because you're carrying everything with you. And bacon is one of the highest calorie, lowest weight things that you can carry. And so after my first year of Iditarod that I failed woefully on my nutrition need, basically I took all this food. Jay Peterbury said, you're going to carry your fears. And I did. I carried way too much food, way too many batteries, and I didn't eat the food. So I just took my food for a trip around Alaska that first year. Because lots of it didn't work in a frozen environment. And so for the second year, I made all this food and tried stuff and put it in my freezer at home. And then we'd take it out and be like, can I eat it? And like, nope, that doesn't make the test. And so bacon was one of those things that I found you can eat when frozen. It's easy to package up. And so in Iditarod, I was with my husband. We've done it a couple times together, and it's been a really cool like teammate journey. And the last time we did it, you send your food, you get 3 5-pound food drops, and you send them ahead of time, and they're like dropped by airplane in the middle of Alaska. So you plan, you don't know how long you're going to take. You get up to your food thing, and it's sort of like Christmas. You're opening it up and everything. But so we're in between 2 of those drops, and we're out of food because the snow conditions were bad. And so we were walking our bikes instead of riding our bikes. So, what we might have done in 5 or 6 miles per hour, which is fast on a fat bike, we were covering a couple, 2 miles an hour, walking through rain or through snowstorms. So we're out of food. And, the body needs food, but the brain needs food too. And at least we were together, we're commiserating. We're like, oh, we're so hungry. We're like licking the snow, like digging through our bags here. And finally, we're like, God, is there nothing left? We're digging. And Greg finds like a little like baggie that's got like a few crumbs of bacon left in it, like just like tidbits of bacon. And so it was basically like kind of gross looking through the bottom of all of our frame bags for anything. Like we've all done that. You get your backpack out or your camelback from like, you haven't used it for a month, and you find food in it and you eat it, because if you need it, you're going to eat it. So kind of gross, but what you do on the bike is not often what you do. Don't try this at home. A little bag of like bacon scraps. And so we like get out our stoves, because we have to melt snow for water. You're not like, that's how you get water out there. We get out our stove, boil up, like we're huddled around this, warm little stove. We boil up some water, and then we put like these 3 little crumbs of bacon in the warm water, and we made like a bacon broth, and we just sat out there. I mean, it was probably like 1 calorie, and a little bit of salt, but we just sat out there and we're just like, oh, we're going to make it. Oh my God. But like, it was the best meal. It wasn't really a meal, but it was so good. And mostly I was like happy that it wasn't me alone. It was like we were kind of commiserating together, which is a nice thing. When you're really in a hole, it's kind of like our soup story. You're like, I got you. I'll make you some bacon broth, baby. I love you. So yeah, that was a real bonding moment for me and my husband out there in Alaska. Was the bacon broth. It was pretty exciting. Have you ever hallucinated by lack?
I've never hallucinated personally. But as I shared as I shared at the Hall of Fame, the first 24-hour race I did, right? One of my buddies who was in my pit, my spiritual guru, he was drinking mushroom tea the whole time. So he was, but I wasn't.
Okay. Well,
but anyway,
with hallucinogenics, you can't hallucinogenics if you go long enough. I had some cool hallucination stories, adventure racing, multi-day racing. And it's basically why your brain needs sugar too, and carbohydrates, and eating things. Like I've seen in New Zealand, like the middle of the snow, we're up in the high alpine, and I saw a Vietnamese woman who fruit stand with like mangoes and all this, like clear as day. And I'm walking over to the fruit stand, and I'm like, you guys, who's got some money? And I'm like, I'm going to buy some pineapple and all this. And they're just looking at me. And it was so funny. All they did, we're like 5 days into some 10-day race. And they're just like, Reba, we don't have any money. And I was just like, oh. And like, okay. And they just kind of went with my hallucination, but they said like, we don't have any money. We can't buy any fruit. And we walked on. So there's kind of a natural kind of interesting effect that can happen to your brain when you're just lacking calories. I've been thinking about this a lot because the Tour Divide is going on.
Yeah.
And lots of our friends who are rookies and doing it for the first time, like the winning time's like 16 days, So the leaders are in, a bunch of people still on course, but been talking to some of my friends who are experiencing that kind of hallucination for the first time.
It sounds like Chris Burkhardt, who was a rookie this year and had an amazing finish, had lost, not only did he lose 25 pounds, let's talk about like fueling, right? But he sounded like he embraced some hallucinations as well.
Well, I know, and it's kind of cool. I mean, he might be another guest on this between two wheels sort of thing and talk about that kind of stuff. We are going to close this first episode, and for more info on nutrition, race and training, fueling, you can go to gooenergy.com. You can go to rebeccasprivate.idaho.com. We've got, even on Rusch Academy, we've got a whole segment on how to fuel for Private Idaho, whatever distance you're doing. Yuri, where do you want to point anybody else for any kind of good nutrition stuff?
Well, like you said, our website, if you go, we have a whole segment on GOO's website for nutritional planning. As you already mentioned, I think you and I have shot some YouTube videos over the years for Rebecca's Private Idaho about hydration, things like that. People can hit me on my personal IG too. I answer questions all the time. Don't be afraid. Find me at YURI HAUSWALD. I'm happy to answer any questions, share any knowledge, any stoke. But those are the best places that you can find some info. And please say hello when you see me in person at my 11th Private Idaho.
Yeah, Yuri's going to be here. We're going to be doing some more fun stuff. Maybe we'll have a Chubby Bunny competition here, and you can win some good product. I think we need to do that at one of the expos. We'll have Chubby Bunny. We'll have a rematch. We'll have challengers. Maybe we'll have like single elimination, like a whole board. So we'll see. Add some fun, more eating competition into the riding competition, because I think that's pretty fun. So things to remember: nobody's perfect. We're all working on this and evolving and figuring out our nutrition strategies. Your body needs food, your brain needs food, and most of all, it's really good to ride with friends and get together with friends between two wheels. So thank you for being here on episode 1. And who knows, we'll do a fun guest next time around. And if you have suggestions or people you want me to talk to, just jump in and let me know. And Yuri, thank you so much for being my soup friend and my riding friend. It's so good to chat with you.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see you in person and enjoy beautiful Sun Valley in September, end of August, September. And I appreciate Mike Mack coming up with this new way to interact, engage, hopefully, spark some fun here into, everything that revolves around two wheels.
Yeah, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So that's my closing. That's my closing message. And thanks for being here, everyone. Be good. We'll see you next time.
Ciao.